Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. So I've had a couple of requests to do some videos more about our initial series or something that you could do every day. And hi, and this is Asher and this is Pepper. As you saw yesterday, these are my staff members in charge of social media content and Cuteness Patrol. Pepper, get out of the way. Come on, move, baby. So I thought I would start this morning. These are some things that I try to do every day, some days even in my office. So I've got a block, and you can get these anywhere, Home Goods, sometimes Overstock.com or TJ Maxx, Marshalls, very, very cheap, or maybe even Five Below. So I've got the block, and I'm going to put it the skinny way in between my kneecaps. And I'm going to start with a pelvic reset. The pelvis is kind of our rudder for those of you who know boating, or our command center. So everything, that's where our center of gravity is, that's where right below the belly button, that's where our transverse, or our internal core, our spine support. So always good to start with a neutral pelvis. And just take a couple of deep breaths here. So inhale through the nose. Open your mouth and exhale fully. And just notice. Notice what happens when you fully exhale and you feel all of that energy kind of draw in and move towards your center of gravity. So inhale through the nose, feel the breath move into the rib cage and expand it wide. Open your mouth, exhale. And then inhale again. And then audibly exhale that out of your mouth. And I learned that from a physical therapist that was working with my daughter. We called her Mrs. Ashley, and love you, and hopefully she'll watch this at some point. So I learned so many cues from so many people and so many different professionals in the field, but also a big fan of putting your hands on your body, getting familiar, and then that's what encourages this proprioception, because our bodies respond to touch. So understanding what is happening in your body as you press on different parts, encouraging that feedback. So we're going to do this one more time. Take a big breath in through the nose. And then curl the tailbone under and slightly lift the hips. Now you're squeezing into the block. And just notice. Your feet are anchoring down, all four corners of your feet, your big toe, your pinky toe, and your heel. Belly is scooping under, and the ribs are drawing together. Asher, am I doing okay? Yeah? And then imagine your rib cage is like a corset, and you want to think about actually knitting it together so that you've got all this consolidation, so that your core is drawing in all this energy. Everything from your strength emanates from your core, which makes sense, physically and metaphysically. So you should start to feel those glutes, or peaches, or grapes, as my son calls it, and the lower part of the glutes really starting to build some heat, fire up. The general population sits a lot during the day, whether it's in the car, at our desks, at home, on the couch. So these glutes kind of forget what they're supposed to do, and things like the back of the legs, the hamstrings, other muscles take over for it. So they're made to work. They're big muscle, the most powerful muscle in the body. So don't be afraid to feel it. And then from here, yes, our hips are still lifting up and we're still squeezing on the block. Let's just circle the wrists. The wrists and the ankles are the farthest away from the body, so they tend to get neglected a lot of times. I know I work at a computer a lot during the day, as most of you probably do, and that repetitive motion really takes a toll on our wrists because we start using the muscles repetitively and we don't stretch them the other way or use them the other way. And then give those fingers a stretch, pull back at the finger break, and then gently pull back. And then it's a different set of muscles for the thumb. So give the thumb some love. You can even take your fingers right below the thumb knuckle and then encourage some of that opening in there. Good. And then think about segmentally rolling down from the upper back, the middle back, and the lower back. Hands can come down. Now press your hands down into the mat and think about peeling your chest open so that the back of the shoulders are getting engaged. Press your fingertips down or your finger pads down and feel how that really gives some energy to your arms and the back of your arms. And think about drawing in the belly, giving that block a squeeze. Now press down through the soles of your feet and energetically spin them out without moving them. And then that's going to engage your core, and I want you to lift your hips. Good, really wrapping the tailbone under. And from here, take a breath, relax the neck, maybe give your head a shake from side to side. Because the back of the head is on the mat, the back of the shoulder blades, the tailbone is curling up. So these are basic moves. Very slow, very deliberate, but think about repatterning movement. And my little buddy is bringing me a sock to play with. So I want you to really peel the chest open, press the back of the arms where the triceps are, press the finger pads down, and curl that tailbone. We're going to hold here for about 10 more seconds. Spinning the feet out. There's a lot going on. That's okay. Brain needs to work too. Really important. It's pretty easy to walk in what we call forward and back in that sagittal plane. Not much brain power involved in that. That's why it takes us moving our arms and legs really fast, either in running or on the treadmill or that elliptical. And then from the upper back, I want you to roll down one vertebrae at a time. Nice job, everybody. So reset here, and then bring that block in between your knees. Take a breath in here. Chin is neutral. And then slide your hands. Breathe in. And then as you exhale, slide your hands towards the wall in front of you. Lift your shoulder blades. And your gaze is right towards your pubic bone. And then as you inhale, lower. Audibly exhale and lift. Keep the chest peeled open. Play with the puppy with the little fingers here. Now I want you to press down with those finger pads and squeeze the block. Think about hollowing out your belly. Maybe curl and lift the tailbone. It's a lot, I know. And then inhale, lower. Let's do that one more time. And then exhale, curl and lift. Good. Press down through the finger pads to peel the chest open. Squeeze the knees into the block. Hi, Asher. Hi, baby. Hi. Good. And then lower back down. Drop the feet. Nice job, everybody. All right. So let's reset into some getting some movement into the hip sockets without actually twerking or tweaking the low back. So I like being flat on your back. We follow the principles of natural development. If you think about it, when we come out of the womb, we're on our backs, and then we start to roll over. Watch babies, watch their progression and development. That's kind of what we're basing these movement patterns on. So whether it's yoga, whether you call it fitness, regardless, the body is in motion. The body needs to move, and it needs to move in a systematic and progressive pattern. So I want your kneecaps right over your hip points. You may need to bend your knees as much as you need to. Now think about spreading the toes, and then take your fingers, if you want to realize where optimal is, take your thumb on that lower rib and take your middle finger on your frontal hip point. That's called your ASIS, so we'll get a little bit of anatomy as well. That distance between your thumb and your middle finger should not change. So that's going to kind of be your guidepost. So from here, legs are straight up in the air, spread the toes, so really a lot of activity. We've activated the core and the glutes, and then we're just going to spin the legs in the socket. Seems simple. So right from the legs, or the femurs, there's your big leg bone in the top of the leg. I want you to turn those kneecaps in and out, and in and out. And guess what? I encourage you to bring a mat to your office or your workplace. Do this a couple of times a day. Joints need this. It increases what's called synovial fluid. Think about synovial fluid being like the oil in your car engine. Without that oil, all the motor parts are going to get locked up and sticky. And that's kind of what happens as we age as well. We stop using it, and the body says, oh, well, I guess I don't need to make any more because they're not doing it very much. So they become sticky and gunky, and we lose the range of motion. Yes, and we're just going to keep doing this. And notice, internal rotation as the kneecaps come in, and then external rotation as the kneecaps spin out. Internal and external. Now we're moving the lower half of the body so the upper body stays still. Lots of education with me for those of you that have never trained with me is that we learn if we're moving the lower half, the upper half needs to be stable. If we're moving the upper half, the lower half needs to be stable. And in order to do that, we must be mobile. We must have a joint that moves through its proper range of motion. Mobility, not the same as flexibility. We'll talk about that in another video. Nice job, everybody. That should feel a little bit different and a little bit more fluid now. So nothing changes in that rib cage. The ribs aren't flaring up. And I shouldn't see anything happening in the upper body as the legs move. Good. And then bring the knees in. And then we're just going to allow the upper thighs to come towards the belly. Now, again, notice what's happening in your body. So I suggest if you're normally moving to music, turn it off. Tune in. You want to move better and you want to feel better, you need to be able to listen and internalize and really do this with a lot of patience. That's what I tell people when they start training with me. The first thing you need is patience, because we're going to be working on repatterning movements, working on motor control. Motor control is the brain talking to the muscles and the soft tissue. And it takes a lot of patience because it's not always the fun stuff. Good. And then bring your knees in and then roll over on your side. And then come into what's called a quadruped or a tabletop position. Again, pause and notice. So what am I looking for? We're always looking for joint alignment because those are good landmarks and good indicators that we're going in the right direction. So my shoulder is stacked over my elbow and over my wrist. My hip is stacked over my knee in this particular exercise. My toes are untucked. And from here, we're just gonna revisit that breathing with some cat-cows if you know yoga. So as you inhale, we're gonna energetically spin the hands out, lift the tailbone, and think about peeling the chest open. Now watch my neck and chin. I'm not gonna crank my neck up. I'm keeping my cervical spine or the back of my neck in a neutral curve. And then as you exhale, we're gonna initiate it from the tailbone. So curl under and think about rounding each vertebrae up and pushing through the shoulder blades. And then inhale, peel open by energetically spinning the hands out. So I'm getting the chest really open here. Kind of undulating the spine, exhaling. What's that saying? You're only as healthy as your spine is mobile. We get really stiff and stuck by assuming these same static postures all day. And you'll notice your energy is probably a little bit better than it was when we first began because we're waking up those neurons in the brain. Good. Let's do a couple more here. And just move around and see how it feels and then come back to a neutral. So neutral is a natural curve in the spine. It's not a flat back or rounded back, but it's natural. So I've got a natural lumbar curve. Lumbar is this part of your back down here. I'm also not allowing my ribs and belly to dump down. Again, I'm finding that middle finger on the hip point and thumb on that low rib, and I'm making that area back to where we did on our back. So put your brain back to when we were just on our back. All right, from here, you can walk your knees in slightly, and then we're gonna make some circles with our knee. And we're just moving in the hip socket and the leg bone. So notice I'm not twisting or moving my low back. My arms are straight, and I'm energetically, again, spinning those hands out. You want to think isolating this hip socket to really get the fluid moving in there so that you can capitalize on how well that hip socket has to support our everyday movement. Circle both ways. Good. And then reset, and let's try the other side. Again, working within your range of motion. Think about drawing a circle with that kneecap. And you may not be able to go as high. That's okay. Start small. Better to start small and progress than to start big and get frustrated. Good. And then we're going to tuck the toes under and push the weight back towards the heels as the arms are straight. Again, keeping that neutral spine. Inhale, come forward. Exhale, rock back. Inhale, come forward. Exhale, rock back. As you continue to do this, remember what we talked about. Hands are anchoring down. Push the weight into the big toe. Now, if the soles of your feet are tight, Untuck the toes, totally fine. Rocking is, again, a natural progression babies use before they crawl. So if you find that this all seems really easy, still try it for a couple of days. Better yet, video yourself and see what you look like. Send it to me, I'll look at it and give you some pointers. Nice, everybody. And then the last one, pause here, and then sit back into a child's pose and let your forehead rest all the way down. And then just let this be easy. Turn your palms up and think about 5 big breaths here. So inhale, feel your breath move and push the belly into the thighs. And then open your mouth, exhale, let it all out. And as you continue to breathe, remember that breath is critical. That's why I've spent so much time on it this morning, and it's a automatic function, and we tend to lose the capacity to breathe with our diaphragm. We'll talk about the diaphragm or diaphragmatic breathing in another video. But for now, concentrate on getting those big, deep breaths, getting the body full of rich oxygen, and then opening your mouth and let the exhale be long, full, and empty completely. And then as Asher finishes chewing up that cardboard, or whatever he's found now that I'm not looking, I want you to notice the difference between how you feel now and then maybe how you felt at the beginning of the video. I encourage you to do this a few times a day. It's a nice reset. It's a great baseline or a great place to start, especially if you have not exercised or moved intentionally for a while. And then the last breath here. And slowly roll it out. All right, puppies. Tell everybody to have a nice day. Thanks, guys, for watching. Let me know how you feel. Have a great day. Bye.